I really hope that y'all are ready for another round of inspirational stories and Founders Talk. At this time, our next founder, Kwame Tara, he shares how he overcame fear to build his dream business. Please welcome to the stage, Kwame Tara.
Good afternoon. How are you guys? Good. So, like she said, my name is Kwame Tara. I'm the founder and CEO of bEHR. We're a startup company based here in New Orleans at Xavier University, committed to maximizing health in the Black community. So, before I get to my business and kind of how we arrived where we are today, I want to tell you a few stories, a few philosophies that have kind of shaped my approach to building a business and really just how I approach life in general. So, you guys familiar with the expression, everything happens for a reason? Not always obvious what that reason is, right? In certain moments, sometimes our life is falling apart, and sometimes our life is falling apart and we don't know why, right? We can't find the silver lining. But I want to offer a different perspective on that expression, right? It is true that everything does happen for a reason, but that reason is closely connected to your own individual perception, beliefs, and attitudes. So for example, our thoughts shape how we interpret the world. There aren't objects in the world for you to see. There are your thoughts, your perception, and then how you interpret and how you might think that you can use those objects in the world. That's how we see. So it's important that you shape your own perspective and your own intentions so that what you see, what is revealed to you in reality is connected to what you actually want in life. Many of us are walking throughout life and allowing the environment to kind of shape our perspective, right? Focusing on negative things often. And what happens is we say, oh, why is this negative thing continuing to happen to me? Well, it's closely related to the framing that you operate with within your mind. If you shift that framing, right? If you choose to focus on what's positive, if you choose to focus on what you actually want, both on a conscious and more importantly, even subconscious level, the world will start to reveal itself in that way. For example, yesterday I was standing outside of my office with one of our partners, and he's like, have you heard that red cars are rare? I was like, yeah, I've heard that before. I don't really see that many red cars. I have a red car myself. And the next 2 minutes, we saw 20 red cars just standing right out there. Now what happened? Nothing changed, right? There weren't all of a sudden just more red cars, but our focus changed. And that's how you need to understand your relationship to the world and your reality and whatever it is that you're pursuing. So let me tell you a couple of stories. I've had an interesting life over the past 4 years. I used to work for United Airlines. Apparently they're here as like a venture partner, so hopefully, I'm not here to talk bad about it, but I'm going to share my story. So I love that job. It's actually the only job that I ever planned to commit to. I'm just not really great at jobs, but the trade-off to me was really worth it, right? You work 40 hours per month, right? You get health insurance, dental insurance, car insurance, that'd be great too. Free flight benefits, right? Me and my family get to travel the world for free. My parents, my children, and 2 friends, we just travel the world. So to me, it was worth the trade-off, right? So I was committed to trading that time. However, because I had a different vision, right? Reality didn't allow for me to maintain that position. So my vision of bEHR wasn't consistent with my job at the airport. So the universe worked really hard to get me out of that job. Okay. First thing that happened, August 2022, the manager calls me in, says, hey, I need to talk to you about something. I had never met with her before. And so, because I was, as far as I could tell, a pretty good employee, followed the rules. And she calls me in and says, hey, there's this unspecified violation. We have to remove you from work. We did a background audit, and USPS came back saying that you are no longer eligible to work due to a unspecified violation in March of this year. So I'm like, well, what is it? They're like, well, they didn't tell us because to protect your identity or protect you, but it has to be something serious, like a felony or a serious misdemeanor for them to remove you from work. And I'm like, no, I don't remember doing anything. As far as I know, hadn't committed a felony. And so I'm just starting to think, okay, whatever. So I walk out of work, they take my badge, I go home, I'm starting to apply to jobs because, now I need a new job because that was my primary source of income at the time. I'm like, wait, apparently I'm a felon. How am I even going to be able to get a job? So I just closed the laptop and decided I was going to handle that tomorrow. So I spend the next day trying to figure out what really happened. So I call a lawyer. My lawyer calls a private investigator. The private investigator calls his friend. Like, everybody's trying to figure out what I did, and nobody could find anything in the system. So I'm just like, okay, what is trying to get me out of this job? What's really going on here? And so I called United HR, and all they told me was that there's an there was a misdemeanor assault in DC in March of 2022. I'm like, well, I was in DC March 2022. I don't remember assaulting anyone. But so I called the DC court and talked to the clerk, and I was like, hey, they said that I've been fired, or they said that I've committed this crime, and I'm just trying to see why this is showing up on my record. And he couldn't find anything. I was like, okay, what's really going on here? I was like, what's really going on? They just walked me out of work. Can you help me? He's like, well, there is this guy who has your same name and who committed a assault on March in DC 2022. I'm like, that's crazy. I have a pretty unique name, I think. And so I called my manager. She brings me back in. They're like, oh yeah, we figured this out as well because we've been doing all these calls. I think they should have done that on the front end before they fired me, but that's, again, I'm not here to talk bad about United Airlines. So they bring me back to work. They pay me for the day. We're good. 3 months later, she calls me back in. Not unspecified violation this time. This time it's for doing quote unquote stealing time. So all of my co-workers, when we were running late to work, we would go park at the terminal parking lot, the surface lot. You guys may be familiar with it. And then running clock. And if we didn't have any work to do, we'd go back to our car, go park in the employee parking lot, so we had to pay. Harmless, right? Didn't affect productivity, anything like that. I didn't actually even know it was against company policy, because the way we do things here in New Orleans is always a little different than other stations. I started off in San Francisco, everything by the book. New Orleans, there is no book. Okay, and so it's okay. I get it. I'm gonna just do what y'all do. That turned out to backfire on me. So she calls me in. I get suspended. Next 3 months, I'm trying to plead my case. I'm like, guys, it's only $250 worth of time that you said I sold. Can you just take it out of my check? No, they don't care. So I say all that to say that the universe, whatever you believe in, worked as hard as it could to get me out of this position that I was in, that I loved and felt like brought a lot of value to me, so that I can then start working full-time on bEHR. So in December of 2022, I got suspended from United Airlines. I got fired from this other job I was working for a tech startup in San Francisco, virtual, and I had nothing. Right? I decided that was a good idea for me to start working full-time on my business. So in December of 2022, I started working 80 hours a week for the next 52 weeks, nonstop. All I had was one clear vision, which is to launch my company. In 2023, we engaged with over 1,400 individuals throughout the New Orleans market to help them understand what our solution is all about. We were selected for 6 startup incubators and accelerators throughout the country, including AWS by Harvard Startup Next Gen Accelerator, Black Ambition Prize with Pharrell Williams, and the Futures Fund with the Volunteers of America Community Health Incubator. We brought in almost $60,000 as a company in our first year through startup accelerators and incubators. What I was able to do in that year was set my mindset up to where I could take massive action. We often take a while to get to this point because different variety of fears, right? But you need to detach yourself from the outcome. You can't control the outcome entirely. There are forces outside of our control. Again, remember these perceptions that have influence. And when you detach yourself from the outcome and understand that there are some things outside of your control, it takes the pressure off of you to deliver. And you can focus on taking massive action. Because what do you have to lose? In our first year, we finally got our product at the end. We were trying to raise $250,000 to pay our developers and license our technology, but we were unsuccessful. So ultimately, I pitched them, said, hey, can you guys front us technology for some little bit of equity, and so that we can get this thing rolling. And in 2024, January, we officially launched our product. To close, just remember that your thoughts, your perception shape your reality and what happens in your reality. And that is just an absolute truth that we can't escape, whether you believe it consciously or not. And most of it is shaped by our subconscious beliefs. So as much as you possibly can, eliminate them, the ones that aren't serving you, and do some deep work to understand exactly what's in the way of you taking as much action as you possibly can, because that is the only thing separating you from your future. Thank you.
Thank you, Kwame. Very inspiring.